It still blows my mind that in a 30-day period, I managed to just get my withdrawal from Rise with the Effexify prop firm for 19 and a half, $19,004 uh, in a 30-day period, and then I managed to get $9,500 from Quanteco, and I just added that up, and it's $28,500 in a 30-day period.
Honestly, still can't believe I'm sharing this, but this strategy made me drop ICT for good. In just 7 minutes, I'm going to share with you the easiest scalping strategy that I've ever used. And as somebody funded over $1.2 million in funding capital, I know what works. And this strategy requires no fancy setup and no extra tools. It's just a simple step-by-step strategy that made me $28,000 in the last 30 days. And it works no matter what skill level you're on at the moment. So let me show you how it works. The strategy that I utilize is a simple range breakout strategy. Now, we have very specific rules for this, and there are 4 clear steps that you need to observe, and I'm going to explain them to you right now. So step number 1 is identifying 4-hour key zones. We have a very specific way in which we do this, and I'm going to show you how that works in just a second. So essentially, what we're looking for here is looking for key points where the market has reversed on the 4-hour. So as you can see, if we are bullish in this example, price will move with higher highs and higher lows. All right. And so now we're trying to find points in the market where price has reversed from. So if we look from right to left, we can see that the market has significantly reversed from here. If we look a bit more to the left, price has significantly reversed from here. And you can draw on these zones onto your chart. And that's basically how you identify 4-hour zones. Now, obviously, price is over here, and that's where we start moving on to step number 2. But before we get to step number 2, I want to show you a real life example. So essentially, here on the NASDAQ, which is what we trade this strategy on, very important, we trade the NASDAQ, okay? And we trade it at New York Open. I don't know what time zone that will be for you. So if you are in the US, in New York, it's going to be roughly 9:30 a.m. Okay, for us here in South Africa, it's GMT +2. It is 4:30 p.m. For if you're in London, it's going to be roughly 2 hours before that, so about 2:30 p.m. for you in London. Now, you can adjust that to your time zone accordingly. Now, what we're looking for, again, is for where price reacted most recently. And if we look at this example that I just drew on over here, this looks kind of familiar. So you can see price reacted and pushed down aggressively here, and price reacted here and pushed aggressively. So what does this look like to you? It looks a lot like this, all right? So that's really the first step, is identifying the framework to frame up your 5-minute trades, all right? And like I say, and this is what I say in a lot of my examples, we are looking simply to create a framework for 5-minute trades. These 4-hour zones are rough estimates of where we want to trade in between and the direction of the market. And I'll show you exactly how that works in step number 2. So in step number 2, we're looking to identify the 5-minute range. Now, the 5-minute range often occurs within these 2 zones, okay? So within these 2 zones, we will have 5-minute price doing this. Now, the 5-minute range will then obviously be like so, okay? We can see a clear range forming, and then what we're going to want to do is obviously trade the breakout of that, which is coming in the next steps. Now, what we want to do is ascertain what direction we want to be trading in. So if we're taking a trade going up like so, well, there's a brick wall here. And so we don't want to be doing that in this particular example. And so what would be ideal in this particular example that I'm showing you right here is to take a trade towards this wall where we have more space. However, if we are somewhere in the middle, here, okay, that's our range right here, we can take trades going up towards the wall or trades going down. Now, there is another scenario that can happen with your 5-minute range, and that's what happens in the example below. So what happens is price creates a range here, and then it's using this 4 hour as the high of your range. All right. And what happens is that it starts to create a range here, and then at New York Open at 9:30 a.m. in New York, or 4:30 where I am in South Africa, price then decides to break out with volatility from the open. And so what we can then do, again, we still have a range. The range is this here, which is connected to this, and this is the bottom of the range. However, we've broken up towards the top, and we can use this as the top of our range. All right. And then essentially, if price decides to come back down, we can then also trade it down, okay, to the bottom of this range. So let's have a look at a real life example. I don't want to just be showing you squiggles on a chart. So in this example, exactly what I just showed happened. We had price creating a range here just before New York Open. At New York Open, volatility pushed price to break out, okay? So in this case, this would be our 4 hour range, all right? Let me draw it a bit more accurately. But what we wanted to do instead is just utilize this 4 hour as the top of our range. And so that is essentially what the 5-minute range would look like in an example like this. Then step number 3, we are looking for the 50 SMA. We're looking at the 50 SMA and we're waiting for a break and closure, not just a break of the range, of the 5-minute range, but a break and closure. Very important. So if we look at the example over here, we observe the 50 SMA. Now the 50 SMA is pointing upwards, which is one of our confluences, but price must be above the 50 SMA for us to take buys over here. Okay, very, very important. Now, as you can see, we've still got our range here that we would be trading from, and price has just broken out above the 4 hour high as well. So we've observed the 50 SMA, we are above for buys. If we are trying to take sells in this example, we would need to be below the 50 SMA. We also prefer for the 50 SMA to be pointing in the direction in which we are taking a trade setup. Okay, so price has now broken. Let me show you real quickly. Price has now broken above our zone. So we have this 4 hour zone, okay, above this range as our zone. Price broke above and closed above. Now what that means is that the 5-minute candle has now finished and closed, all right, and the next one has started to print. So it cannot just wick and then close below your zone. It must break and close above. All right. So price broke and closed above, and then the setup is now valid. We then are ready to go on to step 4, and that is entering on the retest and waiting for price to hesitate at the zone that we have selected. Okay, we use a 1-to-2 risk reward ratio and we go break even at 1-to-1. So in this example, you can see price then broke out here. It then started retesting and hesitating. Again, this is the 5-minute time frame, so you can't see the hesitation that happened during live market. But price essentially would have just come back to the zone and started to pause for a little bit here. As you can see in this particular example, price did in fact go a little bit lower, reject, and then push higher. All right. And so we would have entered at this point here as price started to hesitate and reject the zone. And then once price gets to a 1-to-1, which would have been roughly here, so it's 1-to-1 ratio with our stop loss, we then would have placed our stop loss at the break-even point. All right, and essentially that's the full setup, and it resulted in us taking a win over here. So we hit a take profit at 1-to-2 risk reward ratio. Now we've been taking these trades over 8 months now, all live in my Discord channel, which is down below in the description. You can join us every single weekday as we go over the charts live with you guys, and we trade these setups every single day. We have made over 80% in the last 8 months trading this particular setup, and we've recorded every single session and the results from every single session. We've got a roughly 60% win rate with a 1-to-2 risk reward ratio, with all of the results calculated and recorded. So if you want to join that, you can click the link in the description below. And if you want to learn this strategy more in depth, there is a free training down below that you can click on where I teach it to you for free. Click on that link and I'll see you in the free training. Cheers, everybody. Thank you very much for watching.